Let's go. Welcome to the Allcast podcast, where we share startup game as we learn the game. I am Ahk.
And I'm Murph and Ahk. Bruh, it is about time we bring up the startup cemetery.
Okay.
Cue the music. That shit kind of goes, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, Startup Cemetery. It's a segment where we're going to be bringing old, familiar companies that we all know from our childhood or sometime recently in high school or college, and we're going to talk about how the hell they died. The whole point of this is just to learn from these companies' failures, and so we can take these learnings and apply them to when we're building our own companies in the future, hopefully.
You know, learn a little bit of startups, get a little laugh, you know, the whole shebang, brother. What my gabagool, you know, how you feel about my Sopranos acts? I feel like, you know, we talking business, we got to feel the business, you feel me? Where the gabagool?
That was good. I thought that was good.
All right, overall, this segment, we're going to give you a quick speed run of the rise and fall of a company you might be familiar with, just like Murph said, or you might not be familiar with, and we'll put you on game.
So let's get it started. You remember that app Yik Yak?
Oh my God. I can't believe we're going over this one, bro. I remember it was like the 2021. That was like all over campus. Do you remember? Like, I don't know. I can remember people were on the manhunt for some people on campus. Like, the most predominant, well-known villain that I remember was the Tractor, or someone known as the anonymous name Tractor. I mean, I know from my experience, he was ruthless. And you can imagine this turned our whole campus to a wild, wild west. Everyone was going crazy on there. Tractor terrorized me. If you're still out there, I'm looking for you. I'm still looking for you. And get my mama's name out your mouth. Oh my gosh. Nah, I'm just playing. I'm just capping around. I was just a lurker, and I was just wasting my time on it. I was always been a number one hater of Yik Yak, and I always tell my friends, like, man, this is just a waste of time. But I would fall into the doom scroll of just looking at all the stuff that's going on there.
I know, man. Yik Yak, just everybody was basically their worst selves on that shit. I remember when we were in our clubs, having our club meetings, having our fraternity chapter meetings, and we were genuinely concerned about how we were getting so many downvotes on Yik Yak. It was a damn straight waste of time, in my opinion. But some of the shit on there was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And we want to give a little disclaimer before we go into the story. Now, all jokes aside and, you know, all that stuff on the side, bullying is a serious issue. If you were a loved one on our faces, please take the time to talk to someone or even talk to us. This shit is not okay. And we're going to be storytelling, but not glorifying or condemning anything that happened on this app. But, well, surprisingly, we were talking about 2021 being when we got exposed to Yik Yak. We figured out that this was just a copycat revival. The true launch and the peak of Yik Yak takes us back to 2013. The year where we're laughing on Vine, Vines were popping, Migos were yelling Versace, and we were still talking about swag when we, like, you know, I think the new word, well, I know the new word is drip. So, like, things have changed substantially.
Some swagger, some Versace. Yeah. Some vibes back then. But yeah, 2013, in enter two frat bros from the beautiful southern state of Georgia. Tyler Droll and Brooks Buffington. But yeah, these are your creators of Yik Yak.
And is it really, you know, the vision with Yik Yak? Was it Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, baby? Like, was it just a concoction of all those? But it was meant for close proximity engagement and anonymous, targeted towards college and high school students when they first launch. So, like, what is it, man? Like, what is it? Give us a little rundown, Murph.
I mean, it's kind of like a bulletin board, you know, one of those that you walk by your park or in your classroom when you're out your way of class, like, you know, conveying local events that are happening this week or something. But as we're going to come to learn, there was really nothing community building about this app. It was an online bulletin board, basically, that these two fellows wanted to create. And I think the proximity was about like 1.5 mile radius. You could see what everybody in that little radius, that circle, was talking about. But that's what they built.
And like, when I gotta add my little comments or my little side comments, but I'm struggling to see the vision of making it anonymous, especially towards college students. I don't know. I'm first gen, so like coming into college, I didn't know what was going on. My only reference was like mid-2000s college was like Blue Mountain State. And if you've seen that show, you know if there was an anonymous texting platform, that would go crazy on there. But to be, like a devil's advocate, I can definitely see the argument where when you in the weeds, when you building something, you're so excited, you're so young, you only look at your product as the light and the little angel that it is. And when you're building, you're not thinking of worst case scenario. And sadly, for the guys at Yik Yak, they face a lot of worst case scenario situations. What we're gonna dive in deeper later on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a different time, but if you've ever heard like a 10-year-old spoiled kid talk on Xbox or PlayStation, and they have server names too, but imagine that without the server names and they're just going crazy online. That's basically what happened to Yik Yak. But dive a little bit into that early success of them. Dive a little bit into that early
Yeah.
success that Yik
And
Yak had.
before diving into the early success, I want to say this was like those Call of Duty lobbies, and so at that time, people were just ruthless. But I mean, we saw early success, and for investors, that was really, really nice. You feel me? So like, let's break it down. Basically, their early growth was crazy. Launched in November 2013, March 2014, just a couple months later, 250,000 users. April 2014, they're on 100 campuses. June 2014, 250 campuses. By September 2014, 1.5 million downloads. So for two young fellas, they were on the high of, oh man, we the man. Everyone likes their app, and so like they were on top of the world.
And this wild growth sparked some flashbacks for success for investors across the country, especially those who invested early in Facebook or Meta as we know it today, and Snap. And I get it. The money tree was kind of growing big for Yik Yak, and investors saw that. So let's break that down. In early 2014, Yik Yak raises a $1.5 million seed round for some angel investors. And then in June 2014, they secure another 10 million from similar angel investors and another couple small venture capital firms in the South and Atlanta, Georgia. And then in late 2014, Sequoia Capital, the big dog,
The big dog.
led by Jim Goetz. And Jim Goetz, for you guys that don't know, he led a big investment round for WhatsApp that took off and then got acquired by Facebook. But and then he led it. So Jim Goetz from Sequoia led a $62 million round of investment for Yik Yak, and that put the valuation for Yik Yak at about $400 million, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. And we'll catch up with that later. But Sequoia had to get in there somehow.
That's crazy. The valuation, and of course, big dog Sequoia kind of come into the scene when they see that sweet 1.4 million downloads. They're like, "Hey, we got to get on this." They got the fan base.
But there was a catch, Hawk. There was a catch.
There's always a catch. There's always a catch.
Yeah. And the founders had to pivot quickly, but basically they weren't going to get any of these investments if Tyler and Brooks didn't stop the bullying and threats that were being made on the Yik Yak app.
Okay, I feel like that's a valid reason. That's a valid reason. They're concerned and they don't want their money, go down the drain. And that's like a concern for humanity's sake. Trying to stop this. Let's do a quick run through though. If they were successful in this, and sadly they were not, they struggled to be able to put these bullying metrics and being able to catch these things early on. It was a really struggle for them to monitor this, although they tried by doing like, if you have, I think it's 5 downvotes, and they would remove the post. However, there's some crazy out-of-pocket things that came out of it, and sadly, in 2015, at University of Missouri, a student from Missouri University of Science and Technology was arrested for making threats of violence against Black students on Yik Yak. In 2014, Emory University, a bomb threat was posted on Yik Yak, leading to an arrest. In Michigan Technology University, a student was arrested for posting a threat on Yik Yak to shoot Black students. Now this goes to show like the platform wasn't used to their vision, and this is getting scary for them. Now they're having all this investment on board, all these big investors on board, but they're not able to turn down these kinds of usage and on their app.
Yeah, and this obviously had to come to a stop. And granted, while the examples of threats in bullying, these are at college universities, a lot of other gnarly threats that we couldn't find were also made at high schools. So the pivot that Tyler and Brooks made was to kind of put I'm going to term it as geofencing, as you may have heard before. A lot of apps do it today, but this was their pivot, basically in areas where high schools were located. They would geofence that area out of using the app. So basically that means when you pull up the app as a high schooler and you'd see like, oh, you can't use the app in this location, like walk so and so feet or walk so and so miles to get to the right location, use the app. This was their way of kind of softly saying, yeah, you're not allowed to use this app anymore until we figure out a better solution. So it was kind of putting a band-aid on a bigger problem. But this was obvious. This was like a lot of their users were in high schools. So this was a big hit to their user base. But somehow they still prevailed. They took a big party bus, went down the 101 on the California coast, hit every college university. Sounds lit. They brought the Yik Yak mascot to every college campus, and students were loving it and stuff. So despite losing a lot of their high school users, their user base went up even more, exponentially.
And so now with that, Sequoia, the big dog, is gonna fulfill on what they said and lead the $62 million investment, which put Yik Yak at a $400 million valuation. So even more on top of this, they were the third most downloaded app in the App Store at the time that they were getting that investment. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, they're feeling it, they're rolling it, but these issues and kind of break down what valuation means. I would want to make sure that everyone understands how big this is.
Yeah, so in simple terms, valuation, it's just how much the company is worth. So when investors put money into a company, they decide on the worth based on how well they think the company is going to do in the future. For example, Yik Yak, $400 million valuation. It means that investors believe that the current worth of the company, and considering its potential to grow and make money, this is what it's worth. And so, but like how crazy is this in the time of 2013, 2014, 2015? Because that's when Yik Yak was really popping off back in the day. It was like speculative, but making it worth $400 million, it was a big roll of the dice. And it wasn't unheard of at the same time, though. Everyone was still chasing, the next Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And this is when all these social media apps were popping off too. So throwing cash at similar apps to Yik Yak, like Whisper and Secret, a lot of these venture capital firms were hoping they'd hit a jackpot too for this anonymous social media space. And actually, that's exactly what Sequoia Capital did. They hedge its bets with these anonymous social media apps, and they spread their money between Whisper and Yik Yak. And the idea for these venture capital firms and why they're doing that is they're hoping that while all these apps are getting a ton of users, they can make money with ads or special features to keep that user retention there. They're paying for it. They're generating revenue. And it was all about just betting on the next big app, despite some of the risks that they saw early on, like these bullying and cyber threats.
Yeah. And after getting this investment, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the founders of Yik Yak. Well, let's talk about how it turned out, Murph.
Yeah. Didn't turn out too hot.
Problems, despite high valuation for the time, they still continue to have bullying and harassment, inability to moderate content that we were talking about earlier, declining user engagement. This was becoming a seasonal thing. People were only using this app during school times, and as soon as the holidays would come, the user engagement would drop significantly. Eventually, Yik Yak limped into 2016, laying off most of its employees and struggling to continuously have user engagement due to the toxicity that was on the app. And eventually, we have to go to the wrap-up of the first wrap-up is sadly the two co-founders had to sell Yik Yak to Square for scraps and basically just the intellectual property for about $1 million after they were previously evaluated for $400 million. And there's something on top of that they were dealing throughout their whole journey of growing Yik Yak was actually they had a third co-founder who was suing them the whole time because they gave him the boat and they had to figure out how to settle with him.
Yeah, that was one of their fraternity boys. So he's clearly not the boy anymore.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't remember using Yik Yak in 2014, 2016 area, but Yik Yak made its comeback in 2021. But this is where it's kind of weird. it wasn't by the founders that originally founded Yik Yak. It actually, no one knows who the founder is, and they decided to stay anonymous. The only information that we were able to find was that they were Nashville based. And eventually they were able to get the fire going, and they said that they were going to do better with the monitoring and learn from the previous founders' downfalls. But eventually they got acquired by SideChat, which is a competitor, which also surprisingly have founders that aren't very public. They're relatively press shy, but they were getting sued by another competitor called Fizz. I believe it was a Stanford founded startup. And we figured out it was an ex-Snap engineer and an ex-Snap product designer. And this is kind of like, this is getting a little crazy. Why are these founders deciding to be anonymous with these anonymous chat social medias? Why did Yik Yak decide to come back? How were they able to come back and grow at a tremendous rate? And, why, what's happening now with Yik Yak? Well, now Yik Yak is owned by SideChat, like I said previously, but they pretty much threw all the internals of Yik Yak, put the SideChat within it. And so now when you download Yik Yak in the App Store, you're just redirected to SideChat. And we've been faced with just kind of like a whole realm of startup drama. And nonetheless, this was an interesting story. But why was this happening, and what did we learn from this? Kind of reflect. How can we reflect on this more, Murph? Based on their failure, what did you learn, and what you gonna take with it?
I mean, I want to highlight the three things kind of that caused them to fail, and then that'll help me better explain, I think, my learning. But basically, the first thing is, they didn't have a good way of making money, in my opinion. The business model wasn't really there. Obviously, they had a cool product, and it was new to the scene, to the social media app space, but there's no business model. They didn't have any way to really generate revenue.
They were good at getting fans, right?
They're good at getting customers.
Well, no, not necessarily customers, because customers would define them as paying. You
True.
know what I'm saying?
Okay, good point. Good point.
They're good at getting users and fans and people to to like the product, but not pay for the product or pay for something.
Yeah, you can't define them as customers. So yeah. Thank you for catching me there. But yeah, and then obviously the vast wave of cyberbullying and harmful threats, that was a big thing, and they couldn't figure that out. And then there was also some personal privacy issues where, through some, I don't know, I read an article saying that you could theoretically find out where a user was located if you track their IP address. But anyways, that stuff goes over my head. But anyways, they had some problems, right? They had some problems, but I think what I took away from this is the importance of carefully balancing user feedback and product evolution without losing the unique value proposition that originally attracted users. And unique value proposition is just, in simple terms, it's what separates your idea from competitors, why customers are using your product and paying for your product. And this just ensures long-term user engagement and retention. But, when Yik Yak and its founders were faced with, taking all the cyber threats and the bullying and stuff, they had to change the product a little bit. And so they introduced new ideas like creating username handles or things like this, and expanding the proximity of the app, the radius that where you were interacting with other users. And I think that took away from the unique value proposition that they had in the first place, which was, this anonymous app that you could comment whatever you want on it. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I think they're born to fail from the get-go, because there's no way you could make this a safe space, make this a safe space and keep it anonymous at the same time, it seems like. And the users prove that time and time again. So I think you need to understand, I think the learning that I took away is how you carefully balance user feedback and changing your product, but also keeping in mind what your unique value proposition is and staying true to that.
Yeah. And I want to also add on top of that, the one thing that when I was reading through the story of Yik Yak and understanding what happened, I was always questioning why would it advertisers want to get on this app if it's from the get-go, or not necessarily from the get-go, but during its its time that it was gaining a lot of users, it was known as a toxic platform. There was things, a lot of satire. Why would advertisers want to be in a space that is considered toxic? And maybe, yes, they'll get a lot of eyeballs there, but at the same time, are those customers worth paying for and bringing onto your platform? Those are some of the questions that I was kind of just thinking about. But as I was doing this research as well, I want to say social networking solutions is hard as shit, and I don't know if I want to dive into that. But overall, it allowed me to understand how to think about my like customer segments I want to target. What are the problems I am truly passionate about, and what am I really willing to go through the ringer for? What problems am I really willing to go to the ringer for? Overall, thinking about the solution effects it will bring to the market. That's like I just want to think like I want to be able to take a step back, and when I'm building things, be able to look at, okay, what are the effects that's going to have? What are these decisions going to have? And it's kind of like the Amazon, the two-way door versus the one-way door. Is this reversible decision, or is this a decision that may put me in a situation that I can't go back from? And honestly, Yik Yak was a fun story to read into and just kind of learn from. However, was their growth just based off of human nature's kind of love of drama, or was it there truly aspects of their growth that allow them to get a rapid growing audience that I could go and replicate? Honestly, I have to give them kudos on how quickly they were able to grow. And there was something that they did to go from 0 to 1. But to understand the 0 to 100 and how it had this crossfire pollination, was that from just that drama aspect? I don't know. And I only by diving into building a product and attempting to do my own go to market strategies and growth strategies will I learn at an even deeper level. But that's kind of like what I felt from the Yik Yak. So comment below, what did you guys feel like y'all learned from this? What more do you guys want from these stories, and what more details you guys want to learn that we can cover and we can learn alongside you guys?
Definitely. And with that, we're gonna sign off. Stay away from Yik Yak. Stay away from those toxic fools, and keep focusing on you. But yeah, until next time, everybody, have a good day.